had the ice chest, which we just loved as kids in the summertime, just before fridges came along. So the ice deliverer, he would, have two big steel hook things that he'd jam into the side of the big blocks. But of course, sometimes they'd splinter. So if they splintered, and you were hanging around the back with him, he'd give you a big block of ice. So that was a novelty because you didn't have anything like that at home. And, and then he'd put the ice in the ice chest for you.
Well, there was a bit of status with that too, because there was different size ice chests. And most people had a box that took half a block. There was a standard size. There was a block of ice which was a certain size, I don't know what it was, or a half block. And you'd used to come out, the iceman would stop, he'd have these great slabs of ice and he'd start to pick and split the ice. And you'd stand around waiting your turn and you'd have I'll have a half block. And then you'd have some kid that was well-to-do in the neighbourhood say, we'll have a full block. And it was almost a status that they had a full block and not a half block because they had the bigger chest. If they had a bigger chest, there was more food to keep, so you were better off. And then, of course, you woke up every morning to the clip-clop of the milk truck. I don't think I ever saw the milkman on the truck. He was off to the side, pulling off milk, putting in bottles into houses and giving direction to the horse with either a whistle or a word. That was always fascinating. And they were lit up. They had battery lights on the back.
And then we had the Nightman because most people had an outdoor toilet, the old dunny. And so you knew what day the Nightman was due to come and change over the cans, so you always made sure of the time, and if you knew approximately the time he was due to come, so you'd either risk it, going to the toilet, or you'd hang on and wait till you'd seen him come and go. And
one family gathering, one of the aunties was saying she went to the toilet and it was a full pan, but when she'd finished it was empty, so he obviously whipped it out and put a new one in.
And then there was TV that arrived the year of the Olympics, so we were only about 5. It was before I went to school. We were so excited that we had a TV. I went to the next door neighbour and I said, our TV's arrived, but we've got no aerial. We have to wait till tomorrow till the aerial comes. And I was so disappointed. And my next door neighbour, who we called Uncle Blair, he was very handy with electronics and things, so he came in and rigged up some what you'd probably call now as rabbit ears, so that we could actually get the signal and didn't have to miss out that night on the television, and we were just so excited.
Well, they were well out of the reach of the normal family, quite prestige to have one for quite a few years, but the shops down in Cheltenham in Charman Road that was selling them had them on in the window at night with a speaker in the overhang. So there was families down there with kids in dressing gowns and wrapped up in blankets standing in front of the shop window watching the television. And then slowly, over a few years, people seemed to be able to afford one. I remember getting our first one. It was quite a few years afterwards. But for a while we used to go up to our grandparents every Sunday night. The whole family would be there to watch this TV.
Yeah, we used to go to my uncle's.
We watched Disneyland at 6:30 and then Bonanza and then go home.
And another thing I remember and loved was we had the market garden here, so up on Bernard Street here were the horse stables, because my family had 2 draft horses left over from the days when they were used for ploughing, and of course we'd hit the mechanical age by the 50s or maybe earlier, I don't remember, but I remember coming down to the paddock. We had a cow paddock down Wilson Street, which was the house cow. So as I was growing up, we never had bottled milk from the milkman for years and years because we had a house cow, and my dad would bring home a billy of cow's milk every night. He used to ride his bike to work, and he'd bring home a billy of milk every night, so it wasn't pasteurised, it wasn't homogenised, it was just straight from the cow. So the horses used to be grazing down in the cow paddock, during the day, and then they had to be brought up at night to the stables here on Bernard Street. So every now and again I'd be allowed to go with my dad and bring this enormously tall, terrifying, scary, gorgeous draft horse up the road. And I was always really nervous of him, but I loved to do it, but I was terrified of it at the same time. It was a strange mixture of feelings, but always really felt proud of myself when I led him around the corner and into the stable, and then we'd mix up his chaff and just the smell of the chaff. And every time I come across the gardens now up on that corner, that flashes back into my mind.